Hello, hello.
Hi, Griselle.
Hi, Jeremy.
Good seeing you.
Hi, all. Good.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Hey, Julio.
Good evening.
Guess what, Julio? I
Oh,
made
Emily, you're here.
it. Here I am. I made it.
Thank you.
Walked in the door.
I appreciate it.
Yep. All good.
Julio, I have 6:30. I'm going to start the webinar,
Thank you, Jeremy.
and we don't have a quorum yet.
Okay.
I believe we have it now, Julio.
Thank you. Let's wait just one more moment. Good evening, everyone. We'll just get started in a second. Hope everyone's enjoying the beautiful weather today. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Good evening, everyone, to I was going to say June, not quite there yet. The May board meeting. My name is Julio Peña III. I am the chairperson. I'm going to officially open our meeting. I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and our esteemed colleague is here with our flag. Thank you so much, Beverly. I pledge allegiance to the
To
flag
the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Beverly. I'd like to now go with the roll call, please, and I'll turn to Maria.
Good evening, board members. I will be doing the roll call. Once I call your name, unmute yourself, please. Say here or present, and then once again, mute yourself. Ramona Acevedo. Ramona Acevedo. Amel Afzal.
Present.
Thank you. Grisel Amador.
Present.
Thank you. Damian Andrade.
Present.
Thank you. Doris Astal. Doris Astal. Joan Body.
Here.
Thank you. Gladys Bruno. Gladys Bruno. Glorinette Contras.
Present.
Thank you. Jerry Chan. Jerry Chan. Esteban Chavez.
Here.
Thank you. Richard Cador.
Here.
Thank you. Christina Das. Christina Das. John DeLuper. John DeLuper. Beatrice DeSapio.
Here.
Thank you. Gabino Morales Escamilla.
Present.
Thank you. Cynthia Felix.
Present.
Thank you. John Fontillas. John Fontillas. Kin Fung.
Present.
Thank you. Cynthia Gonzalez.
Present.
Thank you. Diana Gonzalez.
Present.
Thank you. Hector Gonzalez.
Here.
Thank you. Kenny Guan. Kenny Guan. Nicole Huang.
Yes, here.
Thank you. Nicholas Jackson.
Present.
Thank you. John Johnston.
Present.
Thank you. Jeremy Kaplan.
Present.
Thank you. Beverly Kleinman.
Present.
Thank you. Waco. Waco. Barbara Lee. Barbara Lee. Christina Lem.
I'm here.
Thank you. Angie Lau.
Here.
Thank you. Lynette Lopez. Lynette Lopez. Paul Mack.
I'm here.
Thank you. Antoinette Martinez.
Present.
Thank you. Marilyn Melman.
Present.
Thank you. Rosie Mota.
Present.
Thank you. Jamie Nelson.
Present.
Thank you. Julio Pena III.
Present.
Thank you. Karen Rolnick.
Present.
Thank you. Joanna Romero.
Present.
Thank you. Patricia Ruiz. Patricia Ruiz. Damaris Santiago. Damaris Santiago. Sam Sierra.
Present. Good evening, everyone.
Thank you. Ryan Smith.
Present.
Thank you. Victor Swinton.
Present.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Cindy Vanderbosch. Cindy Vanderbosch. Catherine Walsh.
Present.
Thank you. Cesar Zuniga. Cesar Zuniga. Okay, roll call has been called.
Thank you so much, Maria. Welcome again, everyone, and a special welcome to our new board members. Excited to have you folks join us. I'll say a few more words later this evening in our agenda. And before we move on, we're joined by a few of our elected officials. I'd like to introduce Assemblymember Robert Carroll, who I will turn to right now.
Good evening. Thank you so much, Julio. And it's wonderful to be here. I'm calling in from my office in Albany. Just very quickly, because I know you have a long agenda and many people to speak. It wasn't until a little bit earlier this month, about 2.5 weeks ago, that we finally passed the state budget. And a few quick highlights. There were some real positive things out of the budget and a couple of negative things. One of the positives was that we were able to get record funding for our local public schools, both in New York City and around the state, when it comes to state funding. We must still be vigilant to make sure that the city holds up its end of the bargain now, and that they fully fund our public schools and hold them harmless from the cuts that happened last year, that were unwise, holding schools to lose money because they had lost students during COVID as we still recover. So, we were able to get more funding on the state budget. We need to fight to keep to make sure that the city budget increases that funding as well. We were also able to shore up the operating budget of the MTA, which the state controls, which means that we should see no reduction in bus and subway service throughout the system, and actually see increases in the frequency of both subway and bus services along many of the lines that affect Community Board 7, which I think will be a real positive as we're really creeping up to pre-pandemic levels. We have almost 4 million people riding the subway each and every day now, which it's not the 5.5 million that were on average riding before the pandemic, but it's much better than where we were just even 6-7 months ago. And so I think that's a real net positive. Some of the frustrating things that happened in this year's budget. One, the governor walked away from any meaningful changes to make New York more affordable when it comes to housing. She had put forward a somewhat ambitious goal of trying to build more housing in New York that I've mostly supported. But unfortunately, when those of us in the city requested that we include some rent protections for market rate renters throughout the state, she walked away from the negotiating table. She also refused to require suburban members to allow for the denser building of housing in their communities, even though we've spent billions and billions of dollars increasing mass transit to those areas just in the last number of years. We finally completed the East Side Access Project for the Long Island Railroad. We finally completed the third track project for Long Island Railroad. So right now, if you live in Nassau and Suffolk County, you actually have more and better mass transit than you've ever had before. Yet those members and the governor refused to negotiate getting more denser housing in those areas. I hope we'll revisit that, but it was very frustrating because we need to fix this housing crisis by making sure we're protecting all tenants so that they're not unfairly evicted from their homes or given predatory rent increases, while also trying to increase supply throughout the region. We can't just increase supply in one area and expect that to mitigate our housing crunch. Many other cities, especially those in the South and West, have built lots and lots of housing in their suburbs, which is the reason why they're more affordable. The governor also spent an inordinate amount of time trying to change yet again our bail and discovery laws. We were able to stop her from changing our discovery laws, and I'm proud of that. I am an attorney, and I really do believe that if you are charged with a crime, the bottom line is the prosecutor should provide the evidence that he or she has against you, all of it, not decide which, not allowing the prosecutor to decide which evidence they think is exculpatory, but all of the evidence. We were able to stop the governor from rolling back that change in our law that allowed defendants to get all the evidence provided to them, which I think was a real positive. There were some small changes to the bail laws, basically for somebody who had been arrested a second time while they were out on their own recognizance from a prior charge that was non-bailable. And that would be that would give some slightly more discretion to judges. But again, these are for non-bailable offenses. All violent felonies are bailable, as well as a number of other offenses. And so this is a minor change, and may or may not provide some latitude where it may be needed. I don't want to go on too further. I see that there's one question already. Let me take that because I know you have a long night, but it's wonderful to be able to talk to all of you, and hopefully I'll see all of you in person sooner rather than later.
Thank you so much, Bobby. And I think we do have one question from Board Member Beverly Kleiman.
Hi, Bobby. How are you?
I'm well, Beverly. How are you?
Good, thank you. I have a quick question. I don't want to take up a lot of time. It's about Access-a-Ride. Access-a-Ride was created because disabled people could not access the subway system for the stairs. And I'm using Access-a-Ride now because I have a new knee. Anyway, as a senior citizen, the price of the subway should be half, $1.35 instead of $2.75. I'm being charged $2.75 for Access-a-Ride. That's not right, and I want to know who I can speak to about it.
You know, I'd be happy to. We could. If you call my office, we'd be happy to talk to the MTA. I mean, your fare is $1.35 on the subway. I mean, you can get that reduced price MetroCard. You're saying that the price for Access-a-Ride is $2.75 no matter what, right?
That's correct. I'll call your office about it.
Call my office. I'd be happy to see, because we did make sure there were fears of budget cuts, and I know Access-a-Ride is not perfect, but there were fears of real budget cuts that we were able to save and make sure that we didn't have cuts to programs like Access-a-Ride. But yeah, call my office. Be happy to talk to you, Beverly.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.
Thank you, Bobby. And we'll take one more question from Jeremy Kaplan.
Hi, Assemblyman Carroll. Thanks for coming. I just wanted to follow up on housing. I appreciate, that I agree to. I think it's, a lack of action is really terrible. We've been hearing, that there's a push to keep good cause in, and also other kind of housing actions that could take place before the end of session, especially since good cause doesn't have a budgetary, requirement. And so I'm just curious what you see for the last sort of 3 weeks or 2 weeks of the session, what kind of housing can be accomplished. And also I've heard some good improvements also on the rent laws, the rent stabilized laws from 2019 that seem pretty encouraging about protecting tenant rights or expanding tenant rights.
So great. So Jeremy, look, don't sell us short. We've got about 3.5 weeks left. Don't say 2 weeks. We're here till about June 10th. We should be here longer, and you should ask every member of the Assembly and Senate to be in Albany more often, to get more work like this done. It's ridiculous that we don't have a scheduled fall session and it's ad hoc, and we pop up every once in a while. We should be in Albany more often. But as for good cause, look, I'm a co-sponsor of the bill. I support the bill. I don't think it's a revolutionary bill. There are very similar laws in places like New Jersey, California, and Oregon. Happy to always discuss with the detractors, smart amendments or their point of view. But for the most part, I'm a supporter of the bill. I think we should pass it. I think there would be enough votes in the Assembly, at least, to pass it. I know that the majority leader in the Senate suggested that, as is written, she would not bring it to the floor to vote. She put that in the newspaper yesterday or the day before. I do think there is a slight possibility, though, of some type of both tenant protection and housing compact for the end of session, though it is not an easy thing. As for further protections for rent stabilized or rent controlled tenants, I'm not sure which piece of law you're talking about there.
Yeah, actually, I saw, I was monitoring it. I think it passed the Senate, but it was around sort of combining rent stabilized apartments. It was an amendment to the 2019 rent laws.
Okay, so it's stopping the combination.
Yes, yep. And also, I think as well, getting landlords to register rent stabilized apartments, which has been a big issue because we're always sort of tracking how many units are available, and the numbers fluctuate from month to month, and landlords aren't reporting them.
Look, I agree with you. I think one of the biggest problems with both rent stabilized folks and market rate folks is there's a huge incentive for landlords to move those tenants out, combine them, renovate them, and try to jack up the rent. And so we're seeing that all over. Of course, it's a slightly different class of apartments if we're talking the difference between unregulated apartments and those that are regulated. But I am supportive of that. I don't know where that is on the housing agenda, just to be perfectly frank.
Thank you, Assembly Member. And thank
Thank
you
you.
for joining us.
Thank you so much, Julio. Look, I love Community Board 7, a former Community Board 7 member, always feel like a member. Windsor Terrace and Sunset Park, I've lived in these communities my whole life. And you guys do a phenomenal job representing us on the community board level. So keep that up, and always feel free to reach out to my office if I can be helpful.
Thank you so much. And now I will bring up our council member, Alexa Viles.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Excellent. I guess the assembly member has left, but certainly wanted to congratulate him on his work on Build Public Renewables that passed. Definitely echo his frustration around an unfortunate lack of passage of any meaningful housing issues, given that it is our city's #1 issue, and certainly our state. But we were happy about Build Public Renewables and certainly MTA funding, among other things. So I just wanted to touch base. A lot is happening in the community, and I know there has been some eagerness to talk about the most recent issue related to PS 172 and the mayor's decision to designate that auditorium as an emergency shelter site for migrants. The most recent information, what you should all know is that that was a unilateral decision where no one in our community was consulted, very much like the placement of shelters in general, right? We, as the community board members, know we often receive a 24-hour notice, if that, on the siting of a shelter facility. So I received notice at the same time that the superintendent of the district and the principal of the school found out. As you are all aware, many of you have been in these meetings with parents and have children there. Parents were deeply dismayed for a good number of reasons. Number one, the school is under massive construction. Not only is the facility just inappropriate on its face to house people, there are no showers there are children's bathrooms, but the whole site is under construction with construction trailers taking a third of the block, and would be a severe disruption to arrival, dismissal, to recreation, to after school programming, to school activities. Since the building is actually, and has been for a very long time, overutilized. There's actually also a number of classrooms that have been closed because of water leakage in the building. So really we're talking about a building that is like under severe space constraints. So this would have been a major disruption. To cut it to the chase, there are currently no individuals in that space. Parents obviously are deeply opposed to it. The mayor today has made statements that these sites are not set in these terms, but essentially no one will be going to these sites, but they will remain a place of last resort if necessary. So right now there are no individuals there. The cots and the supplies remain in the space. We have asked the mayor's office to remove all the items from the space because quite frankly, the kids desperately need it. But we have, as of right now, there is still stuff in the space. So we have received a very ambiguous response. We're not using it now, but we will reserve the right to activate any space on an as-need basis. Now, what is really important for everyone to know is that our community, and you're all part of this, you're leaders in our community, we are an immigrant community, right? We have been a very welcoming community, and one that many of you have worked on figuring out ways to welcome New Yorkers into our neighborhoods, as well as newly arrived migrants. But this site is just a real challenge, in addition to something this board has worked on for quite a while, which is the disparate placement of the number of shelter facilities that we have activated in the district. So, you know, I think we are really just walking this fine line of remembering to be a compassionate society, remembering a compassionate community, understanding that this is a humanitarian crisis and it certainly is unprecedented. But at the same time, demanding that there be a comprehensive plan, not only at the city level. City Council has been asking this from the mayor for quite a long time now. Not only a plan at the city level, but at the state and federal level. Much whom, from my perspective, is deeply negligent and has not provided the city with any kind of relief. And so we have been calling and demanding that the federal government step in and create a national response to this, as well as the state. And I guess lastly, I will continue to say that we want to remain a welcoming city, but people need to be treated with dignity and cannot be put in unsafe conditions. The last thing to say about the PS 172 site, because of the construction, there is a concern around blocking egresses. And while there are multiple, anytime you take out an emergency egress from a facility, it makes it a little less safe. And that feels like an unacceptable element for both anyone who would be in that facility or in the school building. So we will continue to press for comprehensive solutions. I encourage any board member that has ideas of facilities or buildings that you are aware of that we can send to the mayor's office. Many parents have. Our community members know every building that is underutilized or not being appropriately utilized. And I'll say lastly, today we have also been standing with the Brooklyn Borough President, who's also calling on the private sector, in particular the real estate industry, who's also warehousing thousands of units that are not being used. Obviously, this problem is complex, right? Because it includes a shelter system that was in crisis prior to the arrival of new New Yorkers, and a system, quite frankly, that turned into a permanent housing system for vulnerable New Yorkers. That is unacceptable. We need to make sure our folks are moved out of shelter into permanent housing, and that this system can remain fluid, right? It's meant to be an emergency response system, not a permanent housing structure. So there's an enormous amount of work to do, enormous amounts of responsibility, both everyone is kind of being called to task here to come forward and support. Our community has always come forward to support each other and newly arrived folks. So that is kind of where we are in this particular instance. The last thing I just wanted to touch base on, and Edward, I believe, might be here with you and can give you a fuller and certainly answer a bunch of other questions about all this other activity that's going on in the community. I just wanted to touch base on one other kind of big issue. So, Chair, we received your letter, the copy of the letter that you sent to the superintendent. And just to kind of close the loop on the school, the superintendent was informed when I was informed, was when the parents were informed. And I will say the superintendent and the principal and the educators of the school have been working hand over foot, both to figure out the logistical nightmare that they were confronted with on a very short notice, and the eagerness of parents and all that kind of arose with this idea. mitigating as much of that as possible and ensuring that they are there to serve and protect the children in the building. And that is their first immediate concern, and ensure that academic instruction continues. They have been, really great partners. I want to apologize to this board for not having put out a formal communication to you around it. The situation was evolving very rapidly, and I just immediately started communicating with the parents and school administration and superintendent on it. But I realized there was a communication gap with this board, so we will be sure to correct that issue. Just lastly, the other thing, so I can wrap up, and happy to take questions or have Edward jump in later, because I know you have a full agenda, is we did recently have a meeting about vending in the community. I think several of you have attended and have been involved in these conversations. We had well over 200 people participate. It was a robust discussion. There was space for people to express feelings around what they were seeing and experiencing, which, varied in many ways. There was a vending 101, also know your rights as a vendor portion of the meeting, because it was important for us to provide some concrete information, because vending has always been in our community and will continue to be so, particularly under economic hardship times where people are left out of a system and can't make money. We're in an immigrant community and many families are sustained through vending. So we wanted them to get some concrete information. And lastly, we wanted to wrap up the meeting with a discussion around solutions. And we got a lot of really interesting ideas around how could we meet vendors, support vendors in a way that is both legal, in a way that allows them to do the vending that they need for their families, and in a way that, supports the community, because many of our community members love the vendors. So we got a bunch of ideas. The next steps will be is we're probably going to create a working group, and I want to thank the Fifth Avenue bid for providing snacks and drinks, which makes a huge difference when you're doing an evening meeting. And so thank you, David Estrada, if you're on the call. If not, thank you on the internet. We also, I'd be remiss, we did this in partnership with the Assembly member Mitaines's office, and also with Senator Bernardis's office. Red Hook Justice Center and New York Communities for Change helped in co-facilitation and ensuring that there was language justice. So this is an ongoing conversation about vending. The solution will take while, and we're hoping for multiple solutions. Obviously, there is no silver bullet here. The plaza in the park, as it was, as you have all seen, is not moving forward in that same way. Though we are talking about what a concession agreement could be for vending in the park, which would require a legal entity and some negotiation. So all of those things are on the table. We can send you obviously more information, but I just wanted you to know that we are having those conversations, and we welcome you all into those conversations. And you'll probably be getting a notice around if anybody is interested in participating in the working group that would help to kind of move these forwards, obviously, and ground it, drive the solutions and ground this in community. We will welcome that. So we'll be sending that out very shortly. But those are kind of some of the two bigger issues that were happening in the district, in addition to 75 other major issues that I'm not going to talk about because I'd be here all night with you all. So just want to thank you, welcome the new board members. Very exciting, and thank you all. And we're headed into budget season. I'm still by City Hall, and we're having long days. But the situation there is not great, but we are fighting cuts to CUNY, fighting cuts to libraries, fighting cuts to education, fighting cuts to youth services, fighting cuts to aging community. There is a lot being cut, so we have our hands quite full, despite having a budget surplus at the city level of over $2 billion. So this is where we are, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, council member. I appreciate the update. And I'll entertain one or two questions from board members. Seeing none, because the council member was incredibly thorough. We very much appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining us, council member Aviles. Moving on to our agenda, to actually adopting the agenda. Every board member should have received an email earlier today with our agenda along with our minutes. I would like to entertain a motion to adopt the agenda for this evening.
Motion to,
Sorry, Pat, can you repeat that?
motion to adopt by Pat.
Thank you.
Second by Sam.
Seconded by Sam Sierra, motioned by Pat. Seeing or hearing no objection to adopt the agenda by unanimous consent. Seeing or hearing none, the motion to adopt is passed unanimously. I'd like to move to adopting the minutes of the April 19th, 2023 board meeting.
Motion to adopt.
It is motioned by Pat Ruiz.
Second by Joan.
Seconded by Joan Body. Without objection, I'd like to adopt via unanimous consent. Seeing or hearing none, the minutes from the April 19th, 2023 board meeting have been adopted unanimously. The next item on our agenda is public comment, and I'm going to share my screen. This public comment portion is for an item that is on the agenda for members of the public. So members of the public, if you wish to speak on an item that is on the agenda this evening, you may do so now by raising your hand. And I will leave the agenda up for a few more moments. So members of the public, if you wish to speak, you may do so now on an item on the agenda. And I will ask Jeremy to assist me with calling hands, please.
Thank you. Julio, is there a 3-minute time limit on this?
Yes, please.
Okay. So, hang on, Merrill Breitbart, you can unmute yourself and you have 3 minutes to talk. If you look at my screen, there will be a countdown clock.
Okay, yeah, I'll keep it brief. I just wanted to say that I am here on behalf of many of us who live on and around Sealy Street, and we are in full support and in favor of the proposed changes that DOT presented during the meeting on Monday, and are eager for the community board to approve the proposed changes and write a letter of support to DOT. So thank you so much for considering, and I really hope that you will approve the writing of that letter. Thank you.
Thank you, Meryl.
Thank you. I have Jack O'Connell next. Jack, you can unmute yourself.
Unmuted. Thank you, Jeremy. My name is Jack O'Connell. I've lived in Winter Terrace for over 40 years on Sealy Street. About 5 years ago, Google and Waze sent traffic off of the expressway, trucks, ambulances, fire engines, garbage trucks. They sent them off the expressway, down 19th Street, and onto Sealy Street. Sealy Street is a narrow two-way street. We have traffic jams that go from Prospect Park Southwest to 18th Street on a regular basis. And finally, this is an anecdote that I brought up at the committee meeting the other night. On Monday afternoon, an ambulance with its sirens screaming and its red lights blinking was going down Sealy Street. And because of a traffic jam caused by some Amazon trucks, because of that traffic jam, an ambulance with someone in it on the way to Methodist Hospital, the ambulance had to back up 1 block in reverse because of the traffic jam. So we support totally the DOT's hard work. We've been at this with DOT for a couple of years. This is not a new thing. Jeremy, thank you for the couple of minutes there. And I look forward to hearing the rest of the meeting.
Thank you, Jack. It's the community board you should thank. I'm just doing the work. Liz Darst, you can unmute yourself.
Oh, hi. Did you just? Oh,
Yes.
hi. Sorry. I'm coming into the whole conversation late, but I'm a long-time resident of Sealy Street, and I just wanted to put in my 2 cents about the proposal, which I think is great, and I want, definitely want the street to be safer, and I know that it's an issue with all the stuff people have talked about. But one thing I'm not sure if we've explored, and maybe there's a reason this hasn't been explored, is making it one way from Prospect Park Southwest to 18th, and then keeping it two-way from there on to McDonald. And I'm not sure if there's some additional reasons that wouldn't be a consideration, but I just wanted to put out that suggestion as a possibility, because for a variety of reasons, I feel like everyone who lives on Sealy from 18th Street down to McDonald, it would be pretty inconvenient for a variety of reasons. And I think that because the street is much wider after 18th, the issue of sideswiping and speeding wouldn't be as much of an issue. And also if people are trying to get on, if people know that they can't, if like the wayfinding, the Wazes and all those things aren't sending people down Sealy, I think there'll be much less of a traffic issue. So I'm not sure if the one-way thing would be necessary for the entire length of Sealy. So I'm just putting in my 2 cents and wanted to throw that out there as a suggestion. I know you guys have been exploring this for a long time. So that's just wanted to, put that out as an additional thought to the proposal for Sealy Street.
Thank you. At the moment, I see no additional hands. So we'll say going once, going twice. Julio, no additional hands.
Thank you, Jeremy. So moving on to our committee reports. We have several committees. This was a very robust couple of weeks. The first committee was the Housing Committee. There's no vote tonight, but I will turn it to the committee chair if they'd like to add any additional comments.
Hi, everyone. My name is Antoinette Martinez, and at the last Housing Committee meeting, the New York City Community Land Initiative presented on community land trust. And I really encourage anyone who is interested in learning more about community land trust to take a moment to check out the presentation. I'll drop the link to the meeting in the chat. Our next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, June 1st at 6:30 via Zoom, where we'll have a presentation by the Community Service Society on financial resources for social housing. So really looking forward to anyone who can attend that meeting. Thank you, Julio.
Thank you, Antoinette. Our next meeting report is from the Education and Youth Committee. I do not see Cesar here tonight, but I will briefly mention at that meeting, there was a presentation from the principal of PS 958. As some may remember, or for some of our new board members, several years ago, this board was very supportive of a renaming of one of the newer schools coming online to the Dr. Antonia Pantoja School. And we were very excited to hear that PS 958 was embarking on a renaming process. This board submitted, as did many other local organizations, our council member, the Boricua Festival Committee. My mother would be very upset with me that I mispronounced that right now. The Boricua Festival Committee, as well as some other organizations, submitted recommendations. The school has selected the Dr. Antonio Pantoja as their name, and it will be moving forward with the renaming process. There's a bunch of layers going into Department of Education as how that process moves forward. But the principal said that they would keep us abreast and how we can support that. The second item was hearing from teachers and community residents on some issues at Sunset Park High School. There have been some concerns that the school is no longer following the community school model that was outlined when the school was founded in 2009. And under the leadership of the principal, who has been the principal for several years now. We had to go back into some of our archives. One of the founding this board's resolution from 2006 was that the school would kind of create this atmosphere and create this community school model, along with many other principles that would incorporate and support community in the school and bring in a bunch of organizations and resources to support the students at the school. And unfortunately, there are the principal has been systemically dismantling some of those things that have really created that school culture. We heard from some of the school principals, teachers, and the board, the committee and the board will be following up with some next steps in the coming weeks, and hopefully can work to find a solution that can really support the school. I've myself worked in community schools for many years, and just know like community schools are really great ways to support students, and it was very disheartening to hear that things that have been happening. So that is that on the Education and Youth Committee. And I neglected to pause there for any questions before I move forward. Pat Ruiz.
It's not a question. I just wanted to make it clear to folks that were not at the Education Committee meeting that the school building is going to be named after Dr. Antonia Pantoja, which means that whatever happens to that school, whether it remains one school in the future, except Antonia Pantoja school building, etc. And from my recollection from the meeting, Emily Shapiro stated that they are also going to be starting a nomination for the name of the school. So I just wanted to clarify that. But we still have an opportunity to even name the school once they start that process, so don't give up. But the building is actually named after will be named after Dr. Antonia Pantoja. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. So moving on to the joint committee meeting with the Membership and Attendance Committee and the Executive Committee meeting, which was just last week. This was the first time that the Executive Committee and the Membership and Attendance Committee met jointly. And this was the first time we put something together. This was to welcome our new board members, review, introduce board staff and the Executive Committee. We went over the member handbook and discussed committees, and really just an introduction to the board. And it's something we hope to continue doing every year when new board members join, and continue a pattern so that we can make sure that we're welcoming new board members and they are kind of being onboarded. And hopefully the first of many, so that folks feel that they prepare to really roll up their sleeves, because this is a very busy board. Any questions for that committee meeting? All right, speeding right along. Moving on to the Transportation Committee meeting, and I can finally stop talking. Is Katie Walsh here? Yes, she is.
Yes. Hi. Okay. So, oh, Antoinette has her hand up. So I don't know if that's
Antoinette, go ahead.
Sorry, Julio, you moved along before I was able to ask a question. So thanks so much for organizing the meeting for new members. But I just had a question regarding engaging committee members. And I know that we had work to have a meeting about this and address it, but I don't feel as though it's been really fully addressed in a way where chairs can get some more support from the board in how to engage community committee members, those especially who are board members, and then those who are public members. I feel as though there isn't enough, I guess, information or guidance on how we can work to engage. That way, you know, folks, they can roll up their sleeves and they can do the work. So I guess this is more of a comment, but if you'd like to respond to that, I had also sent out an email to the full board. Thank you, Jeremy, for circulating that, but I really didn't get a response from anyone to that email. So I'm really looking for guidance from everyone and anyone on how to really engage not only the new members, but existing members. Thank you.
Thank you, Antoinette, and I appreciate the thoughtful feedback and figuring out best ways to engage committee members and ensuring that, you know, we stay an active and engaged board. It's important, and it's also can be challenging. So let's continue to work on ways to do that. Katie?
Do you want me to jump straight into the transportation committee
Yes.
updates? Okay, great. So first I just want to say that since we had our board meeting in April, there was the second in-person Third Avenue study that DOT ran. And you all heard the call to show up and get the word out. So those who were able to go in person and amplify, thank you. There was a significant change in the number of people who showed up. So great to find out your feedback one-to-one. For those who couldn't go, and just for context for any of the new board members, after being on the record for this for a very long time of requesting safety improvements and needs and changes along Third Avenue, New York City Department of Transportation is undergoing a review and a study and ran 2 in-person sessions. After the April 27th, the second in-person meeting, DOT said that they would offer a virtual session. That's something that we asked for, and we got confirmation. They said, yes, we will do a virtual session as well for Third Avenue. The limitation is language access. So that is something that I wanted to bring up that came up and feedback from them. There's still a survey that's available that's in multiple languages, so we'll drop it in the chat. If you haven't yet filled out the survey for Third Avenue, please do, and also help to amplify it. So that's on the Third Avenue study. I want to jump into what we covered on Monday's meeting and then just give you a preview. You all know transportation, just like housing, just like economic development. We all have a lot of agenda items that we're all covering in these meetings. So the Monday meeting this past week, there was a street renaming that came forward. And that is something that we voted on. And I will look for pointers from Julio and Jeremy in terms of what we need to do in this board meeting tonight. But so the first agenda item was a discussion on a street renaming. This is for 47th Street between 4th and 5th Avenue, specifically named for Andy Varela. And there were community members and board members who presented in that meeting. It was very sweet and moving to hear about the contributions that he has made to this community over the number of years. He had passed away several years ago, but it was his family who came forward. This had already gone to the council member's office, so then it came to the board for approval. And again, we heard there's a lot of people who are here tonight who could, of course, add their own thoughts on this, but I just want to say that there was that discussion. There were some questions that came in from other people who were joining the meeting that night about just what the renaming process is like and the procedures around it, and asked more questions about who Andy Varela was, since they didn't personally know him, and so wanted to understand his contributions to the community. And then we had a motion and we approved the renaming of 47th Street between 4th and 5th in his honor. So this was we did this and passed it by unanimous consent out of the Transportation Committee. So with that, Cynthia has her hand up. I know that she personally knows Andy and could speak to it, but I think my understanding for before we move on to the next agenda item is that we would we vote on this as a board, Julio?
Yes.
I also just want to clarify, it's not renaming, it's co-naming.
Co-naming,
yes.
thank you.
Right, not a problem, it's
you.
a co-naming, that's what
Thank
I was
you.
raising my hand, not renaming, it'll still be 47th Street.
Thank
Yes,
you.
that was it.
Okay,
Thank you, you did a
okay.
wonderful job summarizing.
All right, thank you so much for your help. And if you have more questions, you can ask Cynthia. Okay, so co-naming, thank you.
Thank you for that important distinction. It is a co-naming. This did come out of committee, so there is no second required. And is there any questions on the motion before the board, which is to approve the co-naming of 47th Street to Andy Varela? I see Pat with her hand up.
Julio, just to clarify, 47th between 4th and 5th.
Thank you. 47th Street between 4th and 5th Avenues.
Apologies that my camera is not on right now, but I'm giving the kid a pajama bath here. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that I think it's, as someone who had known Andrew Varela for so many years from my time at Lutheran and Sunset Park, I think that's a great way to honor him. And Katie, thank you so much. I know your dad would be very happy about this, as am I. So thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Are there any other questions on the motion? Damien? And who just put his hand back down?
I guess it's like a question, like what do you mean by co-naming? Like it would still be 47th Street and then it would just have another name just right underneath? Oh, okay.
That's it. Yes, that's it exactly. So it'll be 47th Street and then the other name would be either right above or right below. Cynthia, Felix?
I just want to speak on behalf of the family. Unfortunately, they were unable to come to the meeting this evening, but they did want to extend their gratitude to the Transportation Committee and to the Community Board, as well as Councilmember Alexa Aviles for their support with this, and thank the Community Board for their consideration.
Thank you, Cynthia, for extending the family's wishes. I would like to move this forward. And I would like to move this via unanimous consent if there are no objections. Seeing or hearing no objections, the motion to co-name 47th Street between 4th and 5th Avenue, Andy Varela, is so adopted. Thank you so much, Transportation Committee, and to this board. Katie, there's another item, correct?
Yes, there's another item. So thank you everyone for that. So the next item is Sealy Street. Again, this was also covered on Monday night's meeting. There was a presentation that was prepared and given in that meeting from DOT. I know that this went out to everybody. And so I just want to make sure that you all are familiar with this. Maybe, let's see, I'm trying to think of the best way. Julio, again, also might look for your guidance if you think I should share a slide or two from the presentation itself. But I'll just give the preempt of we received this proposal. We had a lot of community members from Sealy Street who attended and provided their perspective, sort of seeing, I'll put it this way, seeing this as like a minimum minimum proposal, and actually wanted to go even further and look at additional improvements. And so the request that we got was, what we heard was DOT very much looking for a letter of support from this community board for these changes for Sealy Street. And we heard again from the Sealy Street residents who had self-organized and showed up to get something to happen. The request again is, yes, please provide this letter of support, and then let's continue to look at what we can do beyond this. So again, what happened in that meeting that we had on Monday night, and the ask out of Sealy Street is that we had a motion, and the motion in the meeting was to draft a letter of support to DOT to approve the Sealy Street changes that they had showed in their presentation, that they had gone through, and that we will be incorporating all of this, additional thoughts and feedback that we get that was coming in from the residents, everyone who showed up on Monday, and then also any feedback that we got from the board over the next couple of days. So that was the motion that passed in the meeting on Monday. Also we did a roll call vote, and so the vote was 8 voting in favor. Yeah, it was of the 8 that were present, 8 voted in favor.
Thank you, Katie.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry. Yeah, so the motion came out of the Transportation Committee to write a letter of support converting Sealy Street one-way westbound, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not so great with directions, converting Sealy Street westbound, and incorporating the feedback we received at that meeting and from this board and from members of the public until we submit the letter early next week. It came out of the committee, so it does not require a second. And it is brought before this board for discussion now. And I see a hand up from Joan Body.
I'm sorry I wasn't able to attend, but whatever they do on Sealy Street will be an improvement. But my question really is, what's the delay, or what is the problem with installing those traffic lights? Did they give a reason for the delay, or did they just tell you that there's a delay?
Do you mean like traffic
lights on both ends of Sealy Street, the one on Southwest and the one on McDonald's Avenue? Why have we waited, what is it, 3 years now, Jeremy? 4 years ago? 5. Oh, this is another one like
I'm asking you to speak, Joan, because I have the answer to this.
Jeez. Well, DOT doesn't drive on Southwest or McDonald's Avenue, so they haven't a clue.
Jeremy, can I have you respond to that one?
Sure. So they were supposed to install the traffic light last August. They delayed. We keep asking them every month. They claim it is a contractor problem.
Oh, there's only one.
It's still scheduled. I'm not aware of one on McDonald's, but the one on Southwest they claim is a contractor problem. It's been 9 months.
Hi. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Joan. Cindy Vandenbosch.
Hi, yeah, thank you. Yeah, I wanted to give a little bit of context for people who maybe weren't at the little additional context, also because I live near this location. And so I'm aware of many of these issues. So Sealy Street, oftentimes, because it's so narrow, cars end up having, if they're going one way, they kind of have to pull over to the side in order to let other cars pass. And it makes for kind of a dangerous situation. And also it makes it very tight for cars with side swiping and just, fear of losing your, what do you call it, your mirror, right, on your car, because it's so tight. And so, yes, there were a lot of residents. There were over 100 people registered for the meeting, and I think in attendance as well. And then, so the other issue that we have in this area that was highlighted and discussed in the meeting had to do with there's a lot of issues with trucks coming off the Prospect Park Expressway, and they're supposed to route over to McDonald Avenue, which is the truck route. But what's happening is that, if we can go to the 20th Street slide, whoever is sharing slides, I'm not sure who that is. If you can go back one.
It's me. Yeah, I'm just trying to go through this
Katie,
in real
thank
time.
you.
Yeah, of course, of course.
If you can jump back. And then of course, if anything else you want to highlight, but so there's also a proposal. So one thing is that if you can go back one more, actually. So the Sealy Street, what's happening also is that there are trucks that are not supposed to be kind of barreling, as a two-way street. Trucks coming down might try to cut across on Sealy over towards the park, or just people pulling off the expressway from McDonald's, cutting through Sealy to Prospect Park Southwest. And so by having a one-way traffic westbound, though all the cars will feed from Prospect Park Southwest over to McDonald's, which is of course like the truck route. And also cars that, it'll sort of reduce that issue. And then on the next slide, 20th Street is currently a two-way street. 19th Street, which is next to it, is a one-way street. And so the proposal is to have this be the southbound one, the 20th Street, and 19th Street is the northbound. And the issue that they highlighted there is that there are trucks that are coming down this residential street, which is making it so that opposing traffic cannot pass, and also creates issues and potential for side swipes. So I just wanted to give, yes, okay, that's true, Diana. Like there is some of 20th that's two-way and some that's one-way. So this would make it all one-way. So anyway, I just wanted to give in a nutshell. Those were some of the reasons why that I heard in the meeting that this was an important sort of change. There was a lot of discussion about speed humps and speed cameras, because there was a concern from some residents that if we make these one way, is it going to speed up traffic? DOT said they don't see evidence necessarily of that happening, but that they would, this is something that we would maybe want to add on into the letter. There are some speed humps currently on Sealy Street, for example, but we don't see as many of them over on the sort of McDonald Avenue side of Sealy Street. So yes, there are some speed humps, but not on the McDonald side. So those, and then one other issue that was mentioned by residents was like stop signs and enforcement and lack of NYPD enforcement. So I just wanted to share a few things because I know we had this meeting 2 days ago, and I want to make sure people kind of understand the perspective of I'm one resident, obviously, but I've seen these things happen in our community, and certainly they were raised by multiple people on the call. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cindy, for the context. So this again came out of committee. It is to convert Sealy Street one way and to convert the remainder of 20th Street one way, because most of 20th Street right now is one way and this small portion is two way, and we'll convert the remainder one way. All of the transportation committee members have voted in favor of it. And it is before this board for a vote. Katie, can you stop sharing your screen right now? Thank you. Thank you. I can see everyone. So I like to do this by a roll call vote. Yes, let's do this by roll call vote.
Okay, thank you, Julio. I'm going to mute everyone now. Board members,
Point of clar-
Sorry, Jeremy, before we get this, and Cindy is reminding me, we're gonna do this a roll call vote. We are voting, the motion on the floor is, I'm just gonna repeat myself again for everyone. The motion on the floor is to support, to write a letter of support in favor of converting Sealy Street one way and to convert the remainder of 20th Street one way. A yes vote is to vote to support the changes. A no vote is to not support the changes. I just want to make sure that's very clear. And Jeremy will be calling the roll.
thank you. So I'm going to mute everybody right now. Board members, when I call your name, please unmute yourself, share your vote. I will acknowledge you and then mute yourself again. Let's start with Ramon Acevedo. Ramon Acevedo. Amel Afzal.
Yes.
Amel Afzal, yes. Griselle Amador.
Yes.
Griselle Amador, yes. Damian Andrade.
Yes.
Damian Andrade, yes. Doris Astol. Doris Astol. Joan Body.
Yes.
Joan Body, yes. Gladys Bruno. Gladys Bruno. Glorinette Cantras.
Yes.
Glorinette Cantras, yes. Jerry Chan. Jerry Chan. Esteban Chavez.
Yes.
Esteban Chavez, yes. Richard Kodor.
Yes.
Richard Kodor, yes. Christina Das.
Yes.
Christina Das, yes. John DeLuper. John DeLuper. Beatrice DeSapio.
Yes.
Beatrice DeSapio, yes. Gabino Morales Escamilla.
That's a yes for me.
Gabino Morales Escamilla, yes. Cynthia Felix.
Yes.
Cynthia Felix, yes. John Fontillis. I'm sorry? John Fontillis. I can hear you, John.
Yes.
Sound like a frog, but I got yes from John Fontillis. Kin Fung.
Yes.
Kin Fung, yes. Cynthia Gonzalez.
Yes.
Cynthia Gonzalez, yes. Diana Gonzalez.
Yes.
Diana Gonzalez, yes. Hector Gonzalez.
Yes.
Hector Gonzalez, yes. Kenny Guan. Kenny Guan. Nicole Huang.
Yes.
Nicole Huang, yes. Nicholas Jackson.
Yes.
Nicholas Jackson, yes. John Johnston.
Yes.
John Johnston, yes. Jeremy Kaplan.
Yes.
Jeremy Kaplan, yes. Beverly Kleinman.
Yes.
Beverly Kleinman, yes. Wyco. Wyco. Barbara Lee.
Yes.
Barbara Lee, yes. Christina Lem.
Yes.
Christina Lem, yes. Angie Lau. Angie Lau.
Yes.
Angie Lau, yes. Leonette Lopez. Leonette Lopez. Paul Mack.
Yes.
Paul Mack, yes. Antoinette Martinez.
Yes.
Antoinette Martinez, yes. Marilyn Melman.
Yes.
Marilyn Melman, yes. Rosie Moda.
Yes.
Rosie Moda, yes. Jamie Nelson.
Yes.
Jamie Nelson, yes. Julio Pena III.
Yes.
Julio Pena III, yes. Karen Rolnick.
Yes.
Karen Rolnick, yes. Joanna Romero.
Yes.
Joanna Romero, yes. Patricia Ruiz.
Yes.
Patricia Ruiz, yes. Damaris Santiago. Damaris Santiago. Sam Sierra.
Yes.
Sam Sierra, yes. Ryan Smith.
Yes.
Ryan Smith, yes. Victor Swinton.
Yes.
Victor Swinton, yes. Cindy Vandenbosch.
Yes.
Cindy Vandenbosch, yes. Catherine Walsh.
Yes.
Catherine Walsh, yes. Cesar Zuniga. Cesar Zuniga.
Hi, Jeremy. This is a white coat. My signal have a problem. It's a yes for me.
Thank
White
you.
coat.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Julio, the vote carries 39 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstentions.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. And thank you to the Transportation Committee and to this board. And Katie, you have one more agenda item that you wanted to discuss.
Yes, I'm just surprised you have two. Okay. We also, so thank you. And I think Sealy Street neighbors, I'll just put it in the chat too. Again, we're going to be writing this letter next couple days. Jeremy's on it. And there were lots of comments that were provided on Monday around things to consider to add. Again, we said this is kind of bare minimum of things that are needed. So please, you can add additional thoughts. I will put Jeremy's email and phone number here for contact. The next agenda item just to share is this neighborhood loading zones. So of course, we might all be familiar with commercial loading zones that we've seen. What is newer that DOT has been doing is these neighborhood loading zones. So the idea, as we presented on this, but I will just say that we have asked DOT to come to this community board to present on the neighborhood loading zones, and they have told us they do not have the resources and the man-woman power to do a presentation. We've escalated this multiple times. So what I ended up doing on Monday is running through slides that DOT sent me on the neighborhood loading zones so that we could collect feedback. There are only 2 neighborhood loading zone locations right now. One of them is on 41st Street. The other one is on 44th Street. And these are between, now I hope I'm not going to screw up the locations. They're between 6th and 7th. Yes. So 41st and 44th, they're between 6th and 7th Avenue. They take up about 2 parking spots. The idea is they're putting neighborhood loading zones on places that are dealing with double parking so that, for example, because we're seeing this extreme rise in e-commerce, last mile, right, all these trucks, delivery trucks, that those delivery trucks can pull in. So in the meeting on Monday, we were collecting feedback so that we can send this to DOT. I will also post in the chat a link for additional feedback that you can send directly if you're looking for what a neighborhood loading zone might look like near you, that you can actually put in location suggestions. And then in the meeting, we were collecting feedback on the existing locations. So we heard a couple things around signage being an issue. We heard a couple things about like why those locations as opposed to others. So we'll be sending those back to DOT. So again, I will share that in the chat. And then happy to take any questions. The last thing I wanted to say is the next meeting that the Transportation Committee will have is June 8th. And I'd really encourage you to come because this is on the Brooklyn bus redesign. So this again has like huge implications for our district about where bus stops will and won't be and what changes might happen. We will all be impacted in some way with this Brooklyn bus redesign. And we pushed really hard to get the MTA to show up. They again had expressed limited resources, but they've actually now agreed to have someone come so we can just have sort of a dedicated session with them. So that's on June 8th. Would ask if you can come to that meeting. That'll get announced shortly. And then we can provide feedback as a community board on the Brooklyn bus redesign locations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Katie. Are there any questions to the Transportation Committee report? And the hands go flying. Karen Rolnick.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you could give it a little more information as to what exactly the neighborhood loading zones are. Like, is there a time limit? Is it limited to certain types of vehicles? Is it all day long?
Yes. So again, you can appreciate that I found myself trying to present.
I can help a little bit in there. Karen.
Yes, please. I'm opening this up.
The loading zones are designed for commercial vehicles as well as neighbors. So like if you're dropping off someone and you need to park and there's no parking, you need to double park somewhere. It's designed for that. They're from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. So you can park there in your own personal vehicle on Saturday and Sundays.
Julio, there's an additional hand up.
Gabino, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't see the hand up.
That's all right. Thank you. Thank you for hearing me out. So I just want to say thank you, Katie Walsh, for giving us that presentation, because it's so disgraceful that they don't have the resources to bring up the own Department of Transportation to explain this to us, which is important, because if people are going to be receiving tickets for being at loading zones and these new signage, they need to explain to the community what it means. And it's just not right that they haven't been here to show us what those signages mean, what impact is going to, how they're going to implement these signages. And besides that, I just want to also put on the record that we are looking forward to having these signages have translation services on them. So meaning that, we can be able to have them in different languages so people understand what those signs are saying. Hopefully we could get Department of Transportation on board to explain to us and see if they could have those different languages on the signs. And thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, Gabino. And thank you again, Katie, for not just wearing the chair of the Transportation Committee, but cosplaying as a DOT employee. And that's for my Comic-Con geeks out there. So moving on to the last committee report. So this item was tabled from our April 2023 board meeting, the Economic Development and Waterfront Committee. And normally the chair would be presenting this. Unfortunately, Dan, why is his last name escaping me? Dan Murphy. I'm having a brain fart this evening. Dan Murphy has unfortunately stepped down from the board, which I'll talk a little bit more in my chair's report. David Estrada has decided not to be reappointed to the board, has also stepped down. So I'll be presenting for the Economic Development and Waterfront Committee, which this was for percent for art conceptual design, which was discussed last month for artwork at Bush Terminal, the main New York campus. It was a robust discussion last month at the committee meeting, as well as this board meeting. We did end up submitting a letter, but our letter was that we had no position because the committee The committee's vote, Jeremy, if you could remind me what that was, or what
They tabled it. Oh, I'm sorry, the committee took no position, and then the community board tabled it last month.
Yes, the committee took no position. Much of the conversation at the committee meeting was that while the artwork was very nice and very interesting, we felt, many of the committee members and folks present at the meeting felt that it did not reflect the character of the community. So at this board now, we have an opportunity to vote on it. And because at the committee meeting, they took no position, what we have here at the board before us is either to support the artwork or not support. Is that correct, Jeremy?
So that, to support the concept or not support, what they presented was a concept and not a final product. Also, to be clear, we did have to send a letter because there was a time frame. It took no position and merely stated that they made a presentation to us.
Thank you, Jeremy, for clarifying. So before us is to either support the concept or not to support the concept. Pat Ruiz.
If we do not support their concept, will they still do it anyway?
It's an excellent question. Jeremy, do you know the answer to that?
We are advisory only.
Did they at least say that they're willing to come back with something else reflective of the community if we didn't agree with their concept right now, if it's not final?
Julio, may I answer some of these questions?
Yes, please.
Okay, so they said they are willing to work with students from local schools to develop the concept into something that comes from the community. But what they present to us was the artist's ideas, but that might not be the final product.
Can we get that in writing?
We have it on video that is available to anybody.
Is that good enough? I'm sorry, but I mean,
Yeah.
do we want
I
to get
don't
a
know how
letter
to
from
answer that. Is something in writing from this administration good enough?
But I'm saying from them that they're
From
willing
them is the
to.
administration. This is from EDC and the Percent for Art program.
I mean, if this board decides not to support, we can, in our letter, state that we would like them to come back and after designing something else or presenting some concept, we would like them to return as per their presentation to the committee.
To reflect the community. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Cindy, then Cynthia.
Yes, I was at this meeting and I also want to disclose, since I'm participating in discussion, that I have a conflict of interest, so I'll be voting.
Cindy, there's a delay in your audio.
Oh, is there still a delay?
Yes,
I want to take Cynthia and then I'll come back on.
Okay, we can hear you fine now.
Oh, okay. I just, one thing I wanted to underscore, because I was at this meeting, is that I think there were a lot of questions around the actual process and selection. You know, there is a process that they use, but just the fact that while their intention is to engage the community moving forward, and yes, there was like an advisory committee that selected the works. There were questions from several committee members about why there wasn't more engagement specifically from Sunset Park, which is the neighborhood where this is going to be. So I just wanted to share that just so people were aware that that was a big part of the discussion, was around the process. It wasn't necessarily the work itself. And if there's anybody who was there, but I wanted to share that, that was a main part of the discussion at the committee meeting level. And if there's already been a letter sent that there was no vote either way, just a question in terms of process for us, do we still vote on this? Do we need to still vote on this if a letter has already been sent and the proposal is moved forward?
So that's a good question. The letter that was sent stated that we took no position, and this vote, that's up to this board to decide if they want to continue. And if we want them to come back to us with another design, then I think it would be appropriate for this board to, I would say, vote no or not support, and then say, come back when you have a better design concept.
Okay, thank you.
Cynthia?
Yes, I just wanted to say that having been to the meeting, personally, I do support the concept. However, the art renderings that were shown to the board did not seem to, it didn't seem to jive with the community at large. And I personally was not feeling like this was what they presented was appropriate to, what I feel should, represent the community more. However, the concept in itself, I do support the concept and what the group is trying to do. But I felt from what, I was hearing and also not hearing from the people present, that they were not impressed with what was presented to us as an idea for this particular project. And I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you, Cynthia. Damien?
Yes, I attended this meeting. I mean, I am full support of the concept. I would like to see just community engagement. The only thing I did not like, and I feel like I would like to amplify what Cindy was mentioning, that like one of the biggest problems was like it didn't really reflect the community. The way I saw it was just a bunch of rocks just together, and it didn't really speak art to me. That to me doesn't speak art. But definitely I would like to see in the letter that if they could definitely come in to return, but to specifically ask for students or artists that's from Sunset Park alone, since it's going to reflect Sunset Park community. But yeah.
Thank you, Damien. We'll take one more question from Jeremy.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask if there's any chance to share the visuals that were shared, because I wasn't at this meeting. So it's kind of amorphous to me as to what the concept is or what the issue is before if we vote on anything. Just having some context for this.
Unfortunately, I'm not prepared to share that tonight. We did share that at the previous meeting. I'm sorry, I did not think to share that with our new board members for this month. I do want to say again, what they presented to us was not a final design. And they also did say their inspiration was patterns in the various dress of the different nationalities that make up the people of the neighborhood. Whether you saw that, I'm certainly no art critic and have no opinion on this. Whether you saw that within their work or not is in the eye of the beholder.
Thank you, Jeremy. Karen. Karen, you're muted.
They are trying to make the area and attract garment workers to bring jobs and business to the community that we need. And so they had taken pattern pieces, and it was fabricated after pattern pieces because they are trying to encourage garment jobs to come to this community. And I also, sometimes I get very confused when people talking about that the concept didn't represent our community, because I don't know what that would look like. We have such a diverse community that I don't know how you would represent it. How do you represent Arabs and Jews and Hispanic people and Black people and everything that we have here? And I think that we have to be very careful not to focus on one or some ethnicities at the fear of leaving other ethnicities out. So I just think we need to be sensitive about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. And I see multiple hands up. I do want to move this to a vote. We do have multiple other agenda items. I do want to leave with one point, and I think this was brought up in the conversation at the meeting and this evening, that when we talk about, like, I mean, this was a design concept, so there was an actual final design. But when we talk about formations of design, I think when more people are included that is reflective of a community, a design concept is actually a little bit more reflective of a community. And I think what we saw at that presentation and at the committee meeting didn't necessarily feel like it was actually reflective. And I agree, Karen, that I think that, this is a very diverse community. But I also do think that if more folks were included that I think was reflective of that diversity, I think would have shown in a concept. And again, we are just advisory. We can't say yes or no with impunity, but I think us stating that this didn't feel like it was reflective of this diverse community is important, particularly for a Made in New York campus, which is a waterfront that's about to be transformed significantly. So I do want to move this to a vote. A yes vote would be to support the art concept at Bush Terminal Made in New York campus. A no vote would be not to support the art concept. And I'd like to do this by a roll call vote.
Thank you, Julio. I'm going to mute everyone. Everybody's been through this at least once now. So board members, when I call your name, please unmute yourself, share your vote. I will acknowledge it, and then mute yourself again. Let's start with Ramon Acevedo. Ramon Acevedo. Amel Afzal.
Yes.
Amel Afzal, yes. Griselle Amador.
Yes.
Griselle Amador, yes. Damian Andrade.
A big no.
Damian Andrade, no. Doris Astol. Doris Astol. Joan Body.
No.
Joan Body, no. Gladys Bruno. Gladys Bruno. Glorinette Contras.
No.
Glorinette Contras, no. Jerry Chan. Jerry Chan. Esteban Chavez.
Yes.
Esteban Chavez, yes. Richard Kodor.
No.
Richard Kodor, no. Christina Das. Christina Das. John DeLuper. John DeLuper. Beatrice DeSapio.
Yes.
Beatrice DeSapio, yes. Gabino Morales Escamilla.
No.
Gabino Morales Escamilla, no. Cynthia Felix.
Abstain. I don't know enough. I haven't seen it.
Cynthia Felix abstain. John Fontellis. I'm sorry, once again, John? No. John Fontellis, no. Kin Fung. Kin Fung. Cynthia Gonzalez.
Sorry, no.
I'm sorry, thank you. Kin Fung, no. Cynthia Gonzalez.
Abstain.
Cynthia Gonzalez, abstain. Diana Gonzalez.
Yes.
Diana Gonzalez, yes. Hector Gonzalez.
Abstain.
Hector Gonzalez, abstain. Kenny Guan. Kenny Guan. Nicole Huang.
Don't know.
Is that a no?
I don't know. Nah.
Julio, I don't know how to record that vote.
Nicole, the vote options are either yes, no, or abstain. Sorry.
Stay.
Abstain?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Nicole Huang, abstain. Nicholas Jackson.
No.
Nicholas Jackson, no. John Johnston.
Abstain.
John Johnston, abstain. Jeremy Kaplan.
Abstain.
Jeremy Kaplan, abstain. Beverly Kleinman.
No.
Beverly Kleinman, no. Wyco. Wyco. Barbara Lee. Barbara Lee. Christina Lem.
Yes.
Christina Lem, yes.
I
And-
abstain. I couldn't get it working. Sorry.
Barbara Lee is abstain.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Angie Lau.
Abstain.
Angie Lau, abstain. Leonette Lopez. Leonette Lopez. Paul Mack. Paul Mack. Antoinette Martinez.
No.
Antoinette Martinez, no. Marilyn Melman.
No.
Marilyn Melman, no. Rosie Moda. Rosie Moda.
I abstain because I need to know more.
Rosie Moda, abstain. Jamie Nelson.
Abstain.
Jamie Nelson, abstain. Julio Pena III.
No.
Julio Pena III, no. Karen Rolnick.
Yes.
Karen Rolnick, yes. Joanna Romero.
No.
Joanna Romero, no. Patricia Ruiz.
Abstain.
Patricia Ruiz, abstain. Damaris Santiago. Damaris Santiago. Sam Sierra.
I'm on the fence, so I'm going to abstain.
Sam Sierra, abstain. Ryan Smith.
Abstain.
Ryan Smith, abstain. Victor Swinton.
Abstain.
Victor Swinton, abstain. Cindy Vandenbosch.
Present.
Cindy Vandenbosch, present. Catherine Walsh.
No.
Catherine Walsh, no. Cesar Zuniga. Cesar Zuniga. Julio, the vote is 7 in favor, 14 opposed, 14 abstentions, 1 voting present. No position has achieved a majority.
Thank you, Jeremy. So we will, from my understanding, the board has not achieved a decision. So the position is that we have no position. And we can reaffirm that in our second letter.
There will be an updated letter saying we take no position with the vote.
Thank you. So moving on to our agenda, we have the second roll call of the evening. And I will ask Maria to call the second roll call.
Okay, so I will be calling the second roll call. I will be calling the names of the board members that were not present during the first roll call. Once you hear your name, unmute yourself and then mute yourself once again. Ramona Acevedo. Doris Astal. Gladys Bruno. Jerry Chan. Christina Das. John DeLuper. John Fontillis.
Maria John here.
Thank you. Kenny Guan. Kenny Guan. Wei Ko.
I'm here.
Thank you. Barbara Lee. Lynette Lopez.
Here, I'm here. I'm sorry, there's something wrong with my pad. Sorry.
Thank you, Barbara. Lynette Lopez. Patricia Ruiz.
Present. And John, you sound like Darth Vader.
Thank you. Damaris Santiago. Cindy Vanderbosch.
Here.
Thank you. Cesar Zuniga. Okay, second roll call called.
Maria Ray Acevedo, I saw him on camera and he texted me to say his microphone wasn't working. Christina Das voted during one of the votes and informed us she could not stay.
Okay.
Thank you, Maria, and thank you, Jeremy. So moving on to our elected officials report and representatives. We have a number of them here this evening. The hour is approaching late, so I will ask them to be as brief as possible. And Natasha, if you can call our elected officials, please.
Clay Olson from Senator Gurnard's office. Clay, if you're still on, please unmute yourself.
Thank you. Hi, folks. Clay Olson from Senator Gurnard's office. Just wanted to provide, budget updates to everybody on the board, and of course, extend the senator's congratulations to the new board members. So when I last spoke with you all, the budget process was dragging on. It has since concluded. We obviously didn't get everything we wanted, but as Assemblymember Carroll has mentioned, we did get some of what we wanted, in particular, expanded MTA service. We fought hard against the governor's proposed CUNY and SUNY tuition hike and secured a tuition freeze for in-state students. So there will be no tuition hikes for in-state students. And in addition to that, we secured $100 million in funding over the governor's proposal, as well as $1 billion to help asylum seekers and migrants in New York City. We won what I feel is, and what the senator believes is certainly a down payment on his working families tax credit, which would basically be a state version of the federal child tax credit that so successfully cut child poverty on a temporary basis, unfortunately. We've now closed the exemption for very young children. So now children 0 to 3 are eligible for the Empire State Child Tax Credit. We'll now continue, of course, fighting for our legislative priorities, including New York for All, which would basically turn New York into a sanctuary state for undocumented immigrants, for the remainder of the legislative session, which ends in June. Thank you.
Thank you, Clay.
Next, Jane Duong from Senator Chu's office. Jane, please unmute yourself.
Hi, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Jane Duong. I'm the Chief of Staff for Senator Ewan Chu. Since our colleague Clay already gave a pretty thorough Albany update, I'm not going to repeat. I'm going to keep it short. As we're celebrating the AAPI Heritage Month, I wanted to share our congratulations and our sincere appreciation to the AAPI community here. Our office just hosted an AAPI celebration for the Southern Brooklyn community last Sunday at the New Utrecht High School, along with 16 community groups, including a lot of groups in the Sunset Park area. Senator Granada's office, Councilmember Alexa Avila's office are also co-sponsors of the event. It was an event that included multiple cultural celebrations, celebrating our AAPI cultures. And other great news that I want to share with you is that our district office is officially opened as of May 1st. It's located at 6605 Fort Hamilton Parkway. We just had our grand opening last Friday, and we're happy that CB7 Chair Julio was able to be there to support. It was truly a community event, and we welcomed over, I would say, 60 people to our grand opening event. And as always, our office remain a community office. We wanted to welcome anyone who has any questions or concern to stop by, let us know, give us a call. Everybody is welcomed. And last but not least, on behalf of Senator Ewan Chu, I wanted to congratulate and welcome all the new members to CB7. And that's it for my report. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jane.
Mun Yuk Yu from the Borough President's Office, please unmute yourself.
Manyak, are you there? We will come back.
Manyak, I see you've unmuted yourself, but we can't hear you.
We will come back to you, Manyak.
Edward Cerna from Council Member of Ulysses' Office, please unmute yourself.
Good evening, everyone. Edward Cerna, Chief of Staff for Councilmember Alexa Aviles. I should be rather brief since the Councilmember gave our part of the update earlier. So on Tuesday, May 2nd, Councilmember Aviles attended the RGB preliminary vote on this year's proposed rent increases for rent stabilized and rent controlled apartments. You know, this was very alarming because the initial reporting suggested increases of like 16%, which is like astronomical. The council member did join in a soft action protest against these increases. Renters are still feeling the ramifications of the pandemic, and the last thing they need now is rent increases. However, the board proceeded with their vote. The preliminary increases that for one-year leases commencing on or after October 1st would be 2 to 5%, and two-year leases anywhere between 4 to 7%. The council member's position is that, again, what renters need right now is to keep the rent increases at zero, and better yet, a rollback. Renters are really much suffering, and she started today's meeting with talking about how housing is the #1 issue. I have seniors and people all over the community coming to us being priced out every single day. So that's what we need right now, a rent rollback, or at least to keep it at zero. We had the community vending conversation. She spoke on that, so I'll just go over it. The last sort of legislative update I'll do is that Councilmember Aviles has introduced 2 resolutions. One is to support state level legislation that would strengthen existing Champerty laws. And what that is laws designed to prevent vulture funds from buying foreign debt and then trading it in New York, the state of New York. As we know, vulture funds go into countries and territories sort of like Puerto Rico, buy this debt at a discount, and then try to, drive countries into deeper debt. In Puerto Rico, for instance, the junta has passed austerity measures that have really devastated the island. And so these laws would prevent some of that stuff that drives, global sovereign debt and is really fueling, again, an industry that just causes harm. The second resolution she introduced would call on the state to pass legislation to prevent the dumping of radioactive material into the Hudson River. This has been an ongoing issue stemming from the closure of the Indian Island nuclear facility just 25 miles north of New York City. So again, two resos, again, that would prevent the environment and also economic justice on the sovereign debt issue. There's a few upcoming events in the community that we're co-sponsoring. This Sunday, the Buddhist, and excuse my mispronunciation, Suu Kyi Foundation is having a health event at PS 94, which is at 5010 6th Avenue. This Sunday, again, 10 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. There will be free health screenings and services. You guys are invited. IS-22 Pershing is having a diversity day of culture. That would be Saturday, May 20th from 11 to 1 p.m. It'll be in the schoolyard. There'll be henna, painting, piñatas, music, and dance. So definitely go check that out. So just as my colleagues have done, welcome to all the new board members. You know, you guys are coming in with this energy. It's amazing. I applaud it. Me and Damien was standing on the steps of Tweed the other day calling for the full investment of CUNY because that has served so many working class families of this city. And so again, kudos to all of you who have been appointed. So excited to see where this board heads. So with that, I'll leave it at that. Have a great rest of your week, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Edward.
Mon Yuk Yu from the Borough President's Office. Please unmute yourself.
Hi, everyone. Are you able to hear me now?
Yep, all good.
Perfect, thank you. Hi, everyone. So my name is Man Yuk Yu. I'm the Director of Policy with the Office of the Brooklyn Borough President. I want to start off by welcoming our newest cohort of community board members. We were fortunate enough to swear them in at Brooklyn Borough Hall on May 4th. So thank you to everyone who was able to join us in person and virtually. I have a couple of really important updates for tonight. The Borough President had a press conference earlier today to address the asylum seeker housing crisis that we saw, especially in response to the use of school spaces in our various neighborhoods in Brooklyn. While the decision was reversed by the mayor to utilize school space, the borough president was able to offer several solutions that we hope would be able to mitigate this crisis. And firstly, one of the recommendations that the borough president has is to ensure that we're able to open up the tens of thousands of vacant apartments that we currently have unlisted or unleased in New York City to those who are experiencing homelessness. And especially with the deference given to those who have been in the city shelters the longest, so that we can make space in city shelters for people and families arriving to New York and seek asylum. And we're hoping that with this initiative at the state level, we can also compel municipal governments near New York City to collaborate in providing temporary shelter and contributing their fair share to the affordable housing, in the long term. The borough president also called for President Biden to step up to increase funding for the city's response. We know that the governor had invested $1 billion to serve asylum seekers, but we only received $30.5 million from FEMA. And this is something that needs to be addressed, and our office is really calling for the president to step up in this regard. We're also calling on the New York City Council to pass legislation to direct the mayor to use government power to help solve the homelessness crisis through the private sector. So legislation would include adding the arrival of migrants as an emergency under the administrative code, directing the mayor and city to lease market apartments for housing homeless families toward creating space in the shelters for new arrivals, and requiring landlords to prioritize renting to a city at market rates and alleviate this burden. And so next, what I want to share is that we're also moving forward in the next phase of our comprehensive planning efforts, which we had talked about during some of our previous meetings with the community board. For those of you who are not familiar, our comprehensive planning efforts is a borough-wide plan to guide equitable growth to ensure that our communities have what they need to be healthy and to increase access to affordable housing. The comp plan allows us to really think about and explore what the existing conditions look like and develop a plan that would allow us to address public health issues all across Brooklyn. If you're interested in taking a look at the existing conditions report that was recently released, that is available on our website. But as we're thinking about recommendations, we also want to gather community feedback from all of you. And what we're trying to focus on right now is 6 goals that resulted from the existing conditions report that we produced earlier this year. And we have surveys that are available for you to provide your input. We also have an in-person public workshop that's taking place on Thursday, May 18th, tomorrow at 6 p.m. at Brooklyn Borough Hall. And we invite everybody to attend if you're able to do so. I also want to mention that CEC general elections are here for those parents and community leaders that have submitted their names for the CECs. Voting starts on April 21st. Voting started on April 21st and goes through and went through May 9th. There's also still an opportunity for those who are interested in being appointed to their respective CEC through the Brooklyn Borough President's Office to apply via a FACE application. And once they submit their application, they would be cleared to and be contacted directly from our office to schedule an interview. So again, right now we are still accepting applications from parents, community members, business owners, and other community members in our school districts. So if you or if you know of anybody who is interested in contributing further to the CEC, which are community education councils, please do recommend that they submit an application to our office through FACE. And just for some background, in case those of you who are not familiar with CECs are essentially bodies of volunteers that make up that are responsible under state law for supporting local school districts with raising student achievement. And they do have a huge part in making important decisions about our children's education. And then I also want to share that in May, we have a couple of events that are going on. This past couple of weeks ago, we had our Jewish American Heritage Month event, and we're really looking forward to hosting our next Heritage Month event for ANHPI Heritage Month on May 24th as well. That will also take place in the evening at Borough Hall. And I'm also going to just in the chat put down information for our constituent services team. For those of you who are interested in reaching out to your constituent services, they're available from Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. By phone or via email through askrenoso@brooklynbp.nyc.gov. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tanya.
Next, Myra Molina from Congressman Goldman's office. Myra, please unmute yourself.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having the meeting tonight. I want to welcome everyone, the new board members. I was just there last year. I was a board member for less than a year, but however, I was very happy to be with CB7. I want to talk mostly about the homeless and the shelter crisis that's going on in Sunset Park and other low-income communities in the area, and just want to highlight what we're doing as an office to work together with the city and state to find better solutions regarding the migrant asylum seeking crisis. So we need to do everything we can to make sure that the federal government gives the proper funding and resources to New York City. Congressman Dan Goldman is fighting for $800 million in funding for the newly established Shelter and Services Program to provide much needed funds to localities and nonprofit organizations taking on the financial responsibility to provide housing, food, and other essential resources to welcome new migrants. Funding through the Shelter and Service Program would support New York City's humanitarian emergency response and relief centers in aiding asylees. From speaking with asylum seekers at the Brooklyn Cruise Terminal earlier this year, the most common request from migrants was getting employment. So this means that the Congressman Goldman also co-sponsored the Asylum Seeker Work Authorization Act to reduce the wait period from 180 days to only 30 days. He also joined the other members of the New York delegation to urge the administration to provide humanitarian parole to asylum seekers so they could seek work authorization, but without having to wait months to apply. Congressman Dan Goldman also believes that a broken immigration system has allowed for the exploitation of vulnerable children for way too long, leading to migrant children ending up in dangerous working conditions after navigating a system built solely for adults, which is why he has requested expansive efforts to be undertaken to protect unaccompanied children migrating into the country. I think, well, Dan Goldman also believes that all partners, such as public and private, should come together and work with administration to offer ideas and plans for temporary shelters for migrants. That's why Dan is working to bring together local electeds to create strategies and offer solutions to the administration. There's a lot of open space, like Alexa mentioned earlier, that should be used in Sunset Park, and not even in Sunset Park, but other neighborhoods that are more affluent and are providing sheltering to the asylees. So we need to work together to bring creative ideas and not just provide sheltering in low-income communities. So that's my update for now. And if you have any questions, just drop them in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Myra.
And that is it for my list.
Are there any other elected officials present this evening? Representatives, you may do so by raising your hand.
Manyak Yu wants to mention one more thing.
Close us out, Manyak.
Thank you. Sorry, I forgot to mention this earlier, but this is important for the community board. On May 22nd, the borough president will be hosting a public hearing related to proposed guidance and interpretive statements on community board affairs. This hearing will take place virtually at 6 p.m. And I'll send along a little more information with the public notice if the community board has not received it yet, but we want to be able to hear from all of you about what the requirements necessary to be on a community board, what that should look like, and what kind of resources community boards would need. So if you are available, please do join us on May 22nd.
Thank you, Manyak. Jeremy Kaplan, do you have a question?
Yeah, it's kind of, I guess, maybe directed towards Edward and maybe Monyok too, but sort of all the electeds, reps, is just hearing that, we set aside $1 billion in the state budget to deal humanely with the migrant situation. And what kind of stipulations have you heard is on that money? Do we know where that's going directly? Who's in charge of it? And how can you, as our rep, sort of make sure and guarantee that that money gets used in an appropriate way to deal with this? Because I think what we've seen is that basically the Adams administration has misused a lot of money around this crisis and created a lot of, I think, false solutions, the Randall's Island. There's conversations about Rikers Island, which is entirely inhumane to be putting people on. I mean, we're shutting down Rikers Island. So I'm just curious what you've heard, what is in your power to make sure that $1 billion is a lot of money, and that's already sort of set aside. And when the federal money comes in, what can you do in your role to assure that that money gets used in a good way, that we see it, housing people humanely, dealing with, the homeless and shelter crisis, and how we do more permanent solutions instead of a lot of makeshift stuff that gets sent to contractors that waste money. That's what happened with Randall's Island. Brooklyn Cruise Terminal as well seemed like a waste of money because it was only a 2-month solution that was dismantled. So I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on that, especially since this money is there.
I will direct, if it's okay with you, Jeremy, I will direct that question to Edward from the council member's office and to Myra from the congressman's office.
Hi, Jeremy.
Yeah, Myra, no, please take it away.
I just wanted to say that although we may not have all the funding right now that we're requesting, we are looking for solutions to use federally owned sites or buildings that are enclosed already, so that we won't have to use additional funding to create these enclosed sites and beds, such as anything within New York City, and then we can provide that as support to any funding that's already missing and it won't be used for such tools or materials.
And Edward?
So I can't speak to the first portion of the question, which said like what is built into like the allocations of this money, and sort of like the carve outs of like what it can and can't be spent on. But insofar as like what the council member in her capacity could do around accountability, as everyone knows, and maybe you know, and happy to talk a separate time about like what the role of the council member is and her powers generally speaking. We in the council serve as oversight to the administration, and so we conduct that oversight through committee hearings and through the budget process. So although the council member does not sit on the immigration committee, who is chaired by council member Shahana Hanif of District 39, just our neighbors to the north in Park Slope, she has attended several of the immigration committee hearings and has asked questions based off our experiences at the cruise terminal here in Sunset Park for some of the sites that were activated. And so we have asked deliberate questions about how are you hiring culturally competent food vendors so that when asylum seekers come to New York City, they have the food that is culturally competent for their origin. We have asked about or advocated for more humane and dignified housing. The council member since day one has been against congregate style housing that puts people like head to toe, like sardines in a gym, in a cruise terminal, etc. And so we will continue that body of work and asking the administrations to, answer it under oath. But I'd say that with grace, because we know that that's only it's limited, right? The oversight capacity we have. But I want to tie that, and I know I'm taking up a lot of time, but I want to tie it to the budget fight, right? Whenever we ask for these things about translation, making sure that people have access to legal counsel, dignified housing, and the rest, the response is always there's not enough money. And what the councilman has always said, this city is one of the richest city, if not the richest city in the entire world. What we're talking about is priorities and where we're allocating our money, and there's no money for those things, and we have to cut schools, libraries, etc. But this administration has made it clear that they want to prioritize another area of the budget, which again, I don't want to make it too political, but so what we do with folks on this board and in this community is to be out there with advocates, residents, voicing our position for what we think delivers true safety for this community and really does meet the needs of the working class of this city. So I'll leave it at that, Jeremy, and I'm happy to have this conversation offline at greater length.
Thank you so much, Edward. Now I'd like to move on to the chairperson's report. You'll have to forgive me. My allergies have all of a sudden gone haywire. I just have two very brief announcements. One, I'd like to again welcome our new board members who are joining us this evening. I'm going to try and go through all of these names. There are a lot of folks who are just appointed, and we're very excited. We have Richard Kodor, Nicholas Jackson, Jamie Nelson, Damian Andrade, Glorinet Cantres, Angie Lau, Rosie Mota, Doris Astall, Ryan Smith, Esteban Chavez, Jeremy Kaplan, and Gabino Morales. I hope I didn't forget anyone. I think that was the full list. Oh, no, wait, Joanna Romero.
You forgot me.
Joanna Romero. I didn't scroll all the way to the bottom of the Excel spreadsheet. Double screens don't always work. Apologies for that. Welcome again to your first official board meeting. We were engaging. We're very excited to have you. And wait a minute, I think I forgot someone. No, I didn't. Sorry. And we're looking forward to having you join our committees and to get you engaged and to really get the ball rolling. As you've seen tonight, this is an active and engaged board, and we really are looking forward to getting to work. The only other item I just wanted to mention, I've teased at this a couple times to some folks. Our next board meeting in June, and just another reminder, we do not usually meet monthly in July and August, but our next board meeting in June will be an in-person board meeting. So we are going back to in-person meetings. We have been really thoughtful about making sure our boardroom technology has been really great, has been set up great, and we feel like it is a good time at the end before we break for summer that we go back to in person. So stay tuned for some email communication in the next couple of probably in the next week or so about in-person meeting, about our June meeting and what that looks like, and things about that. So that is it. I will table the rest of my items, and I think pretty much everyone has already mentioned some of the things I was going to say anyway. So I see a couple of questions. Pat. Pat, there you go.
Very difficult trying to unmute here. Hybrid meetings, is that still in consideration?
So that's going to be part of the communication that's going to be coming out. Right now, it is going to be an in-person meeting, but it will have some technology, but just stay tuned about what it's going to look like. You're muted, Pat.
I understand June, great. I'm just thinking about September on.
Yes, absolutely. We're thinking about September and onward. Antoinette?
Hi, I have two questions. My first question is that currently there are 4 vacancies for chair positions for the Economic Development and Waterfront Committee, the Immigration Committee, the Land Use and Landmarks Committee, and the Sanitation and Environment Committee. Can you speak on, what's the plan to fill these vacancies?
So thank you. Many of those vacancies were made in the last month due to some board members not being reappointed. I'll be working on some of those in the coming days and weeks as we get new board members submitting their applications. But I will be working as quickly as possible, and just not as quick as I'd like to be, but those will be coming.
Thank you. And my second question is, can you help provide an update as to when we can expect for the launch of the new website?
That will be coming likely in June, but I will let Jeremy answer that either in his district manager's report or now if he so choose. his manager's report. I heard him whisper that.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. And I will now turn it to Jeremy for his district manager's report.
I'll answer that question now. June. So stay tuned for more information on that very shortly. So let me also welcome all our new board members, but I'd also like to thank the board members who have moved on. Several of our sometimes longtime board members, some were not reappointed or chose not to apply again. I don't know who's who, but I wanted to thank David Estrada, Genesis Aquino, Justin Collins, Joe Canali, Jimmy Lee, and Arelis Martinez. And then, so for about a week, we had 50 board members. And then since then, we've had 2 people resign. That's Sandra Alfonso and Dan Murphy. So we are at 48 board members right now. The PS 172 migrant issue was brought up. I wanted to say that we sent, Julio drafted a letter, which we sent to CEC 15 and to the mayor's office, primarily about communication, which was very much like the letter we sent the week previously about to the commissioner for the Department of Social Services regarding the lack of communication about the shelter that opened up on 39th Street last month in the Days Inn. And we invited the commissioner to join us at our June board meeting and address why this has been a continued issue with the Department of Social Services, Department of Homeless Services. We got notifications from the Department of Transportation that they will soon be installing raised crosswalks at 6th Avenue and 50th Street, right by PS 94, and also at 7th Avenue and 54th Street, which is a block away from, or around the block actually, from St. Agatha's, which I forget what the public school number is there, but raised crosswalks planned for 2 school crosswalks. We got notice that the Sherman Street Playground is undergoing reconstruction. That has started, and it will be closed for a year. We had gotten several phone calls from neighborhood residents who had heard that it was sold and being turned into an apartment building. That is not true. It is going to remain a park. It is just being upgraded. Last week, Katie and I attended virtually the DEC air quality meeting regarding a study that's being done on the state level by a private company, and they hold the data and only let it out to specific groups about studying air quality in numerous neighborhoods, including Sunset Park, particularly around the Gowanus Expressway, which not surprisingly is the area with our worst air quality, and creating plans for various neighborhoods on how to mitigate the various vectors that create this air pollution. Unfortunately, as Katie pointed out, state DOT was not at the table. State DOT is not compelled to attend this or be a part of it. So our biggest air polluter, they would have no mitigating. The state would have nothing to mitigate from, because the state DOT is not participating. Katie also pointed out that there's nothing on last mile, which is a big issue for this community. And it can also be a big emitter because it creates truck traffic in a very small area. There's nothing on that that they were discussing in their plan. So it was, at least from my perspective, kind of disappointing. Liquor licenses since the last meeting. There have been 15 new and renewal applications. And then finally, the police department CompStat was emailed to all of our board members in your packet today.
Thank you, Jeremy. Any questions? Gabino?
Yes, this is just a statement of about the PS 172 asylum seeker situation. I just wanted to thank CB7 and our local elected officials for supporting the issues that's going on. And I'm looking forward to the community board to keep supporting our asylum seekers as well as the children in PS 172. I did attend 2 meetings that they had, and also I live in the area, so tonight the parents of some of the students are going to be outside camping to make sure that the mayor does not sneakily house migrants, without notifying the community. So they're doing their job and just making sure that does not happen. And I just wanted to let you guys know that that's what's going on. And thank you guys very much.
Thank you, Gabino. Sam?
Hi, not a question. I just wanted to extend a warm welcome to our new board members. As you see, there's lots going on. We are excited to have you. And just once again, welcome.
Thank you, Sam. So moving on to old business. Do any board members have any old business? Moving on to new business. Do any board members have any new business items? Joanna, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to talk about this or not, but there's like 2 issues that I wanted to bring up. And one of them is that at PS 958, so the school that we voted on for the naming, there's no crossing guards there. So if anyone could like direct me to who I can speak to. I know my son attends the school, and I know Emily Shapiro has been in contact with like the DOE, and there hasn't been much anything done the whole school year. And that is a very busy street. There's also a gas station there. And I know Emily Shapiro had also tried to get the city, the DOT, to block off one of the exits or entrances, the one on the 36th Street side. There are babies there. It's 3K, pre-K, and kindergarten. So that's just some one thing I wanted to talk about.
You can speak to me about it. Reach out to me at the office tomorrow. I'd be happy to speak to you about it.
I'm sorry, you were cut off.
I'm saying you could speak to me about it. Please reach out to me at the office about it.
Okay.
In short, we need to recruit more crossing guards. We have a budget for more crossing guards. We don't have the applicants.
Okay. And then my second issue or problem that I wanted to bring up is that I've noticed a lot, especially on the street where I live in on 42nd Street between 7th and 8th Avenue. There's a lot of like mopeds or motorcycles being parked to secure like parking spaces. And, I drive, so it's an issue where people are just like literally just parking it just to save a space for when they bring their car. I'm not sure if that's legal. So just something else that's been concerning, and I'm sure it's done all over, not just on this block. So that's it.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, Jeremy. I may need some help with that one as well.
Yeah, I would say reach out to me on that. I mean, same conversation. I could reach out to the precinct. I suppose if they are legal vehicles that are able to park in the street, it's perfectly fine for them to be there.
Cynthia Gonzalez.
Yes, hi.
I wanted to make the board aware that the health committee has been outreached by Maimonides Medical Center. They are interested in co-sponsoring a health event with us, and I have forwarded a letter to the community board that I wanted everyone to receive because I was trying to get input. They are willing to bring a medical professional to address whatever medical issue. In my letter, I had cited that I would like the community to receive information. This is personal, but I'm just putting it out there so you get an idea of what could be done. I was looking to address prostate issues and issues of incontinence because, you know, we're always bombarded with the heart and the cancer and this and that, but these are issues that are very personal to people that they don't, you know, feel comfortable about talking about. And hopefully this will open it up so that more people can get themselves checked for these particular conditions. Maimonides has offered to provide the venue, food, and some like giveaways to the general public to attend this event. So I'm trying to get feedback from the board on what you think would be, you know, the best thing. And of course, to work collaboratively with all of the committees so that it becomes a very well-attended event. And I have to get back to them. I was hoping that we can conclude this at the end of this year in June for the community board. But if that's not possible, then for early September when we come back. But I'm hoping to hear, I did include my personal email in the letter so that you can reach out to me and Pat directly about, you know, what you would like to see this event be for the community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. Cynthia Felix?
Jeremy took part of my answer, that there is a shortage of crossing guards. So if anyone knows anyone, encourage them to apply. I also wanted to bring attention that on May 20th, there'll be a Sunset Park Day of Action from 12 to 4. It's an informational fair for community members to learn about the various ways that they can become more involved in the community. And that is going to be done by the Academy of Medical and Public Health Services. And they're also going to talk about the citywide participatory budgeting, where we would be able to select to decide how to spend part of the public budget. So if people could come, we encourage them to attend.
Thank you, Cynthia. Do you know where the Day of Action is held?
That would help if I would say the location in the park. Apologies.
Thank you
In
so much.
Sunset Park. Thank you.
Thank you. Damien?
Yes, so I guess some questions I would definitely want, like some issues I definitely want to raise up is the outreach of Community Board 7, and especially so there's like two. So like the outreach like physically like on the ground and also like on social media. In my opinion, I don't believe like the Twitter could definitely need a much better work on. I feel like it doesn't represent the community board, and it's kind of like hard to like picture if it is a government agency because it does have a picture of a dog. I would suggest like if that social media could be reflecting on, so like for instance like the Instagram social media, the Instagram kind of looks like decent in my opinion, and also like ways that we, because I know like social media is like the only way the community board actually reaches out, and like, you know, many of us definitely do our own outreach, but it's like a way to try to get more participants, especially from the community and in different languages, because I know a lot of our stuff is in English, and is there like certain ways that there could be like stuff just translated as well. But yeah.
Thank you, Damien. That is something we are working on in terms of rebranding our social media, which will be coming with our website relaunch. One of our fellow board members, Amel, has been super instrumental in getting that off the ground. So stay tuned on our relaunch of our social media. And and we'll definitely need the help of all of our board members to get that out there. Diana?
Yeah, so welcome new board members. And I just want to make sure this is on everyone's radar that we will in the near future be announcing a date for a hearing on the mayor's City of Yes carbon neutrality plan. This will be a jointly held hearing of Environment and Sanitation and Landmarks. Now, for those new to the board, right now, Landmarks doesn't have a chair or a vice chair, which means Julio's in charge. And Environment doesn't have a chair, which means I'm in charge. So we are looking at a 243-page environmental assessment, which claims that there is no impact. Anyone who is interested in reading through this alongside us and weighing in at this upcoming hearing, we'd be thrilled to have you. I know you guys don't have your new committee assignments yet. That doesn't mean that you can't participate. So if anyone's interested in going through this with us, that'd be fantastic. That's all. And welcome again, everybody.
Thank you, Diana. Moving on to public comment. If there are members of the public who wish to speak, you may do so now by raising your hand.
Would you like me to call them again?
Yes, please.
Kanako Kawabe, you can unmute yourself, and everybody has 3 minutes to speak.
Good evening, everybody. Hi, my name is Kanako, and I'm here today representing the Academy of Medical and Public Health Services. We're a public health nonprofit located in Sunset Park. Thank you so much, Cynthia, for giving us a shout out. Unfortunately, due to some miscommunications with NYC Parks, we have to reschedule the day of action, or at least we're trying to still hold some kind of action tomorrow. But the larger event with all of our community partners is going to be rescheduled likely on June 10th. And we will be sending out communications about that event. And then I also wanted to speak a little bit more about the participatory budgeting process that Cynthia spoke a little bit about earlier. Though the New York City Council members introduced participatory budgeting back in 2011, and many City Council members currently participate by putting up their own discretionary funding. The People's Money is the first citywide process of utilizing mayoral expense funding. And expense funding can be used for projects and services, and the citywide process allows all New Yorkers to participate regardless of the City Council district that they live in. All New Yorkers ages 11 and up, regardless of immigration status, have the opportunity to decide how to spend $5 million total of mayoral expense funding on these projects in their community. And I'll drop some links right after about where you can learn more. There are ways to vote online and by paper ballot. I'll also drop the link to the online ballot, and you can find voting sites in our neighborhood. In Sunset Park, we currently have 3 ballot stations. It is the Sunset Park branch of the Brooklyn Public Library, the AMPS office, which is located on 53rd Street and 3rd Avenue, and Mixteca, located on 23rd Street and 5th Ave. And we're also working to implement additional voting sites in additional locations in the coming weeks. And I also want to name that as one of the top 33 neighborhoods most disproportionately impacted by COVID-19, Sunset Park residents also have the unique opportunity to vote for 2 ballots, the Sunset Park Neighborhood Ballot and the Brooklyn Borough Ballot. The 3 ideas on the Sunset Park ballot are conversation classes for English language learners, mental health awareness workshops, and a civic engagement and youth leadership program. We really hope that you'll take a minute to vote on these project ideas, and that you're also willing to share this information with your friends, family, and fellow community members so that we can get out the vote. And again, we're really looking for creative ways to engage with our community and get out the vote. So if you're interested in collaborating with us to help spread the word about this, I'd love to connect with you. And I'll drop my contact information as well as all of the links in the chat. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have Cynthia Gonzalez next.
Yes, I wanted to know when we were going to have representation from the 72nd precinct in our meeting, because what I'm dealing with as a driver in this community, it's like the Wild West out there. I mean, I literally had to slam on my brakes really hard twice because these people on these electric bikes, they don't obey the traffic rules. If I have the green light, they just shoot right in front of me like nothing. And I feel that it's creating a really bad situation. I was attending a wake over by Schaefer this past week, and a car with children inside of it, you know, whole family was pulling into the Chipotle lot, and one of these electric bikes ran right into the car. So the man continued to proceed into the parking, and the person, okay, because now, see, on 4th Avenue, you know, the people, they don't park on the curb. They're in the middle of the street. So somebody trying to get into that particular lot would never see somebody coming. And I felt that that person had the right of way, but that person, even though, I mean, he got pretty banged up, the guy, he proceeded to go and begin like a big argument with the driver, you know, claiming that somehow he had the right of way. And it's like this every single day, every single day. It's not safe to drive anymore in this neighborhood because these people, they weave in and out of you, they cut you off, they do, and it's just untenable. And I have brought this issue up when the, you know, the last time that the police department came to a meeting, and I would like to see an update from them on this matter because something has to be done. This is becoming crazy, too crazy and dangerous. Now, if somebody, let's just say, for the sake of argument, which thank God it didn't happen, if that person on that bike would have had a gun on them or whatever, or attack the man or what, he'd just get on his bike and, you know, go up a one-way, you know, or the wrong way on a one-way street, and he'd get away with that. And this has to end. It's just not right. There is no enforcement of this traffic condition on 4th Avenue, 5th Avenue, nowhere. So I would like to request that they be invited to come back to the next meeting and give a report on their enforcement of this terrible problem that's happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. And I'm gonna work with the board office to follow up.
Julio, I see no additional hands up.
Thank you. I see, I think that was Roxana Benavides flailing her hand. So Roxana, close us out.
Hi, Roxana Benavides, branch manager at the Sunset Park Branch. Welcome to all the new members, board members. As you know, New York City libraries are still facing significant cuts in the city's budget. While the mayor reversed some of the cuts in the executive budget, libraries still face a potential loss of $36 million. These cuts are some of the deepest we have faced and will undoubtedly impact our public service, potentially reducing hours, services, programs, collections, and affecting our ability to fill vacant positions that we have now. Please let our city leaders know how important libraries are for our communities and urge them to reverse any proposed library budget cuts. In addition to that, the Brooklyn Public Library is very proud about our Books Home Bands as it celebrates 1 year. 1 year ago, BPL launched a national campaign to fight against censorship of books for youth aged 13 to 21 anywhere in the country. Those youth can apply for a BPL e-card and access the library's entire digital catalog of ebooks, audiobooks, and databases. BPL is working hard to keep teens locally learn more about these issues and exercise their right to read. So I also want to mention, of course, our programs. We are very proud to launch again the second cycle that we have of our brain building Brainy Babies is brain building and story times for children's birth to age 3. It's in English and Mandarin on Saturdays at 11 a.m. This Saturday will be the 3rd session, and it's very important that our community participates in these programs. We're also very proud of our story times and our homework help. And this is a call also for anyone in here who wants to volunteer to become a homework helper at the library. We also have the program, the LGBTQ Teen Club, that is on Tuesdays, every other Tuesday. So the upcoming would be on the following week, and it will be at 4 o'clock. We also started our citizenship exam and study group. It's on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Roxana. Seeing no other hands for public comment and seeing no other items on our agenda, I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second by Sam.
Without objection, the motion is carried. Good evening, everyone. Enjoy your afternoon. Enjoy your evening. Have a good
Bye,
night.
everyone.
Good
And
night.
welcome.
Night.
Welcome again.